It is Thursday. It is Therapy Thursday. It's time for Transforming Trauma podcast with Dr. Triffy. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I see you all watching. Welcome. I've got a good one for you tonight. I've got a very good one for you tonight. I believe I might be saving a few relationships tonight. I believe I might be saving a few relationships tonight. So come in and share the live because I want people to have this information. Happy Thursday. Happy Thursday. I'm Dr. Triffy. I'm a licensed psychologist in Atlanta, Georgia. I'm also a clinical hypnotherapist. I speak with this beautiful little lilt, this little tinge of an accent, because I am from Dominica in the Caribbean, not to be confused with the Dominican Republic. We love them, but they are an entirely different country. Dominica is between Guadeloupe and Martinique, and we are the nature island of the Caribbean, in fact, of the world. So that's who I am. Y'all, have you ever wondered how come relationships start off and we're feeling as if we're on cloud nine? And very often, if the research is to be believed, at least 50% of us end up in divorce when we do marry. What is going on? What is going on? Some of these relationships seriously begin like fairy tales. Like fairy tales. And end up in traumatized, wounded, unhappy, frustrated. I'm never going to do this again. I'm going to be a virgin the rest of my life. I have sworn off women. Unfortunately, some of these fairy tales end in death. The thing is, it doesn't start off negative, because if it started off negative, who would do it? Who would do it? It starts off lovely. So everything has a beginning and an end. Tonight, I want to teach you 4 styles of talking to each other in relationships that are so toxic that the researchers say if you see at least one of these, your relationship is in serious trouble. Forget about if you got all 4. Forget about if you have all 4. I'm also going to be pinpointing that there's one out of those 4 that if you see it, it is the highest predictor of divorce within a couplehood. So if relationships are important to you, if you're in a relationship, if you think you might get into a relationship at some point, I need you to listen. I need you to listen. I need you to see, well, hey, how does this start? What do I need to be looking out for? When should I give up and say enough is enough? How do I stop this thing? Can I rescue myself? Can I even save the relationship if we are there? Okay. Now, I think my job on the planet is to teach and to heal. As a psychologist, I teach people to think better so they can feel better and hopefully do better. I have a special invitation tonight for the people from my hometown. So I said I was from Dominica, right? I'm from the little village of Cottage, way up in the head of Dominica. Huh? Dominica is shaped like a man. Huh? A man without feet. It's like he's got one foot that's just melded into his body, right? But I'm from the north of Dominica, and I want the people from my village, wherever you are, you could be in Alaska right now, you could be in New Brunswick, you could be in Toronto, you could be in Chelmsford, England, you could be in Scotland, yeah, you could be in Atlanta. I need you to listen to the end if you are from Cottage or Tukari. Okay, I've got a question for you, and you want to hear the question because I need the answer. All right. So tonight's topic is 4 toxic ways of talking that predict breakups, separation, and divorce. When you come in, share the live. Share the live because good news, we don't want to hide good news, okay? So what exactly are these 4 things? These nasty beasts, these nasty beasts that are so toxic. Psychologist, researcher John Gottman called them the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. You know about the 4 horsemen in the Bible? Okay, story time. If you've read Revelation, some of you are afraid of Revelation, right? Revelation chapter 6. It says, the next thing I saw was this. When the Lamb had opened one of the 7 seals, I heard one of the 4 living creatures say in a voice like thunder, "Come!" And as I watched, there was a white horse. Its rider was holding a bow. He was given a crown, and he went off winning victories and to win more of them. When the Lamb opened the 2nd seal, I heard the 2nd living creature say, "Come!" And another horse went out, fiery red this time. Its rider was given permission to take peace away from the earth so that people would kill one another. He was given a great sword. When the Lamb opened the 3rd seal, I heard the living creature, the 3rd living creature say, "Come." As I watched, there was a black horse. Its rider held a pair of scales in his hand. I heard something like a voice coming from the midst of the 4 living creatures. "A quart of wheat for a denarius," said the voice, "and 3 quarts of barley for a denarius, but don't ruin the oil and the wine." When the Lamb opened the 4th seal, I heard the voice of the 4th living creature say, "Come." As I looked, there was a pale horse, and its rider's name was Death. Hades followed along behind him. They were given authority over a quarter of the earth to kill with the sword, and with famine, and with death, and by means of earth's wild animals. Now, what could be so jacked up in the way we communicate with each other that this researcher, having spent years and years and years and years interviewing couples, watching couples in experiments, years and years, call these 4 ways of talking in relationships the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse? Okay, I'm going to start with 1. Number 1, I need you to listen. Number 1, because if any one of these is showing up in your relationship is in trouble. Number 1, you ready? Criticism. Criticism. What do you mean? I'm just trying to make my person better. What do you mean criticism? Shouldn't I point out their mistakes? Shouldn't I tell them where they're going wrong? Listen, complaining about an issue is one thing. Identifying there's a problem is one thing. Criticism is a whole different beast. When you complain, you're identifying a specific problem. Hey, babe, I really don't like it when you leave the toilet seat up. Criticism is a different beast. Criticism takes the focus away from the problem and puts it on your person. Man, why are you so nasty? Why do I keep having to repeat myself to you over and over and over again? You are so, ugh. That's criticism, because you've now turned your complaint into an attack on your person. Now, some of us don't do it so rough. Some of us are a little bit more sneaky with it. Some of us are a little bit more sneaky with it. You're not good. You're just, Sometimes we don't even finish it. When we go to you are just anything and that blank is negative, you're starting to piece by piece break your person down. You're starting to piece by piece break your person down. Look, let me tell you, I have sat in on couples sessions where it's like the couple came in. I'm talking in plural. Couples will come into therapy and it's as if they were just waiting for the opportunity to go to town on their person. He's a this, he's a that, she's a this, she's a that, you're a liar, you're a pig, I am never whatever again, you're a this. Look out, your relationship has become toxic. Your relationship has become toxic. Your spouse buys you something, or your girl or your whomever it is buys you something. I don't like that kind of perfume. Why are you always buying me these things? I told you don't buy them for me. I don't like that. You don't listen. You're not a good listener. Why don't you ever listen to me? What kind of taste is that? Who would buy that? I don't like that. Like sometimes I just sit in like frozen horror. I just sit sometimes in frozen horror, listening to people go at each other. Go at each other. A husband comes home. Wife has done the best she thinks she could, cooking a nice little meal with whatever is in the fridge. I hate that kind of food. Why did you cook it like that? What do you mean? Why did you do it like that? You never get this right. You never do it the way I like it. Oh, you used to scratch my back before. No, you're just not a good listener. You're just not taking care of me anymore. You're just not good at that. Other people are better at that than you. I used to date this girl. I used to date this guy who used to. Criticism is the number one of those four nasty beasts. A lot of people will try to sneakily get away from having to be held accountable when you check them and say, hey, I don't like that, by saying stuff like, what do you mean? Why are you responding like that? I'm just trying to get you to do it right. I'm just pointing it out. Or that's the way I talk with my family. Why are you're just exaggerating? You just overblowing things. Or that's how people talk in the North. That's how we talk in the South. Mm-mm. Yeah? Let's go to number 2. Now, how do you normally respond to somebody who criticizes you? Most human beings, what we do is we try to explain, but our style of explaining is often in a defensive way. So, the number 2 way of communicating that is toxic in the relationship, even if they were the ones who said something that hurt you really bad, is defensiveness. Defensiveness. Because what we do with defensiveness is to kind of try to justify. In our minds, we're trying to explain, oh, but this is why I did it. I did it like that because you wouldn't do it anyway. So often we'll actually even try to turn the blame back onto the person that's doing the attacking, thinking we're trying to explain, this is why I did it. All of us have been defensive because it's when you feel as if you're being unjustly accused, somebody's telling you you are a this, you are a that. Why did you do it like that? They hate it. I just don't like it when you do it like that. Think of this. Everybody's, all of us have to deal with finances. We got the bills to pay. Our schedules might not coincide. One person's working whatever schedule, the other one might have a little bit more time to pay the bills. Okay, so the one that's coming in making the accusation is, hey, you're asking the question, did you pay the light bill? Like I asked you to pay the light bill. You said you were going to pay the light bill. And you might say, no. And then the criticizer says, you never do what I ask you to do. You're just terrible with the bills. I don't know why you even have a jurisdiction over the bills. The criticism starts. The person on the receiving end goes into, hey, dang, I was just so busy today. I was just so busy. I just forgot. And why didn't you do it anyway? You know I'm busy. So we set up this kind of action, which is already negative on the front end because you're coming at your mate with criticism. Why? Why is such a, I don't like that word why when I'm talking to another adult. If you ask me, why did I not pay the bills? I'm an adult. I have a right to forget. I have a right to make a different choice. So when we come at each other with these whys, why did you do it like that? Because I did it like that. Because I did it like that. Okay, you might have a different preference, but when we start going in on our people and calling them names, telling them how not good they are at things, as opposed to saying what we would prefer or how we feel about that action being taken or not taken, you start to erode the foundation of the relationship. Because now you put your partner on the defensive, and nobody likes that. You know you don't like that. Nobody likes being on the defensive. It doesn't feel good. It does not feel good. Next week, I'm going to talk about what to do in response to these ways so you can kind of neutralize it. Or you, the person, if you are identifying that you're the one that's the criticizing person, the critical one, how you can express your disappointment or frustration in a different way. Because you're going to have to do it in a different way. Or else you might think you are helping your relationship get better, you're helping your person get better. But I mean, did they ask you to help them get better? And if you're going to encourage your person to get better, do you think this is really the way to encourage your person to get better, by telling them they're silly, they're foolish, they're not smart enough, they always forget, they never this, they never that? Please, first off, eliminate always and never when you're talking to your mate, because nobody ever always does anything. And forget about never. At least one time out of 1,000, they might do it right. Okay, so defensiveness tends to escalate the conflict because the person who's being critical, instead of them actually listening and believing you, they have a tendency to think you're not taking responsibility and you're coming up with excuses. So you just get stuck because poor you, you're feeling put upon and what? Wait, why are you calling me this name? And you're trying to defend yourself. Instead, they think you are not taking responsibility and they think you are making excuses if you come back in a defensive manner. Okay? So we've got two of these horsemen. If you notice that you are having to be very defensive in your relationship, if you notice that you're receiving a lot of what feels to you like criticism, if you're the one being the critical one, if you're the one thinking your partner is just not taking responsibility, watch it. Watch it. Your relationship is being eroded. The foundation is being eroded because those things feel so painful. And if you think about it, you're having these problems because essentially you're using words in the wrong order. Or there are some words in what you're saying that you just have to eliminate or substitute. And the end result you're looking for, like this. Okay? So, number 3. I'm going to go through them and then I'm going to come and take all of your questions, okay? This one right here, if you see it as I describe it, this is the single biggest predictor of divorce, the single biggest predictor of divorce or breakup or separation. Contempt. Contempt. When we're communicating with contempt, we're being sarcastic, we're rolling our eyes, we're ridiculing, calling our partner names, mimicking them like, oh, you're always crying, you're always crying. Every time I try to tell you something, to do it like this. There are partners who will do this, it's essentially they go back on the playground. And this person who, like I said, a year ago, 6 months ago, they thought walked on water, now becomes essentially an enemy. Essentially an enemy. While criticism might attack your character, right? Or you're a nasty person, you're a lazy person. What contempt does is it now adds that piece of superiority over your mate. I'm better than you. How come you don't know this? You're supposed to know this. I thought you were smart. Don't you know everything? Oh. That is so mean and nasty. It gets to the core of the person you say you love. It gets to the core of the person you're saying, hey, in 2 days' time when you're feeling better, I want a little bit of schnookums. A little bit of schnookums. And in those 5 days or 3 days, you expect that the person you were just speaking to with that kind of contempt is going to feel good about giving you a little bit of schnookums. What is more likely to happen is somebody who's on the receiving end of that kind of attitude where you're coming at them and like, who do you think you are? The Queen of Sheba? I told you to do this. How come the food is not? What kind of food is that? What kind of food is that? You think we're a hotel? Somebody might want to go out to have a little afternoon brunch, whatever. What do you think you are? Well, you think I'm made of money? You think money grows on trees? so not cool. But many of us do it. Many of us do it. And what the person on the receiving end of that kind of emotional assault very often does is they freeze. And you have so much coming at you, except if you come right back, because some people have learned to just come right back and know we have 2 hours of fighting. We have 2 hours of name calling, and we both run off a horse, run off, when it becomes too much. Very often, what you have in response to contempt is called the 4th Horseman, Stonewalling. Stonewalling. Now, visualize a wall of stone. It's just hard, frozen, can't move. That's what that looks like. The listener just checks out of the conversation. The listener just checks out, retreats, goes into themselves, shuts down, and simply stops responding to the partner that is coming down on them, who in their mind is thinking they're trying to make their relationship better. I'm trying to make my spouse better. I'm trying to make my husband better. I mean, he never does it right. Never. He never does it the way I like it. What's wrong with him? Are you stupid? I said a few weeks ago, I had this couple, and this woman is saying to the man, who raised you? I was like, oh my God. And she was saying that to a Jamaican man. Who? I never saw them again. I could have told her that, but never saw them again. Okay? It takes time for the negativity of criticism and like the defensiveness that comes in response to the criticism, and then the nasty contempt. It takes time to build up. It takes time for it to build up to the point where the other partner tends to go into just that, I can't, this is too much for me. This is too much for me. I can't do it. I can't do it. And they just shut down. Okay? There are things you can do in the midst of all of that. But first of all, I think it's important to ask, well, why do they show up? Why do these things show up? I want to take a break and answer some of your questions and look at some of your comments here. Thank you all so much for joining. Bobon, you're watching. Hi, Jess. Hi, Jess. Hi, Ramona and Rosemond. Hi, Val. How are you? Yo, so you have to check out Val's store. Val, would you please type it in the chat? Val just opened a beautiful new store called Splendidly. You want to go check it out. Somebody thinks I'm pretty in pink. Thank you, Rosemond. Thank you. Love the shades of pink. Thank you so much. Valerie says it's good advice. Ramona says defensiveness can even come when you're not being critical. Simply stating something you don't like. Absolutely. So I'm going to talk about why those patterns tend to show up in us. And you're correct, Ramona. Sometimes the other person is really not even being critical, but the receiver experiences it as painful, as very painful. Here's the thing. We're supposed to be in a relationship where we're learning each other. So if we can learn, if the receiver can learn to express how they feel when it comes to them at, in a certain way, then the person who's doing what seems to be critical to the receiver can learn how to say what they're saying that doesn't feel good to them on that end in a way that their person can receive it. Because all of us have histories. All of us, our brain works in its own way. Okay, so yes, you might not mean to be critical, but your person has history where this stuff they can't handle it. It's too painful for them. So we talk and we communicate and we learn, well, what is a way that feels easier for you to hear it when I am uncomfortable with something? Okay. Rosemond, hi Petra, good evening to you too. Good evening to you too. Rosemond says, saying stoops continuously. Yes, that's sucking of our teeth. Look, every person in Africa, every person who has this melanin, so I think this is just across the board in our cultures. We have learned the art of the stoops or the neck roll or the eye roll, and we have to guard ourselves against that a lot in communicating with each other, because that's a signal of contempt. It's like, what the, like, who do you think you are? Oh, nonsense. Oh, get out of here. Get out of here. To the person you said, well, I'm going to help you and become your best self. Ramona says, sometimes you can feel the contempt in the way they look at you. See those eyes glaze over, or you can feel the heat coming out of their ears. You can see their eyes, pupils change color. It erodes, Ramona says, the confidence and the self-esteem of the person on the receiving end. It does. It does. It does. It does. And communication is verbal, but it's also non-verbal. It's in the way we move. It's in the way we don't move. These eyes of ours, they say a lot, even when our mouth is not moving. And a lot of us have become very, very skilled at communicating non-verbally in ways that feel just as painful as these words. Rosemond says, yeah, the person who is receiving that kind of criticism or contemptuous behavior can retreat into themselves, sometimes from all of that intimidation. Because really that's what it is. When you're communicating to your partner in that kind of way, it's an attempt to control the other person's behavior, but by inducing shame or inducing guilt. So if you say, I hate that. Why do you keep cooking that? You see, I didn't finish. They were not even words. There were many facial expressions and sounds and grunts and There's so many better ways to communicate. But this is an attempt to make your person feel bad. It's meant to make them hurt. And how can meaning to make my person hurt be consistent with I love you, I love you, I love you, I love you. I love you, I love you, I love you, I love you. Who sings that? P Square. Ramona says, stonewalling, when you've gotten to the point of stonewalling, they've lost interest, you don't matter anymore. For some of them, when we stonewall, I spoke to you all about the Harville Hendricks and Getting the Love You Want. And he says that in relationships, you want to look out to see which one of us is the one that is just the one that goes, one that the big talker. There's a big talker and there's one that tends to be less of a talker. Sometimes when the one that is used to just tack, 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 why did you do it like this? I don't like it like that. This is a better way. Da, 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 where they always have something to say that is not meant to build you up. That is not meant to look for the thing you're doing good or doing well first before they start saying, well, have you considered, or what about, where they're going to, you should not. That should word is such a, please try. That's another one to try to eliminate. You should. There's nothing that should. Should what? You should do it like that. Why? Is there a rule that I should? Maybe you like it like that because 10 other people might like it in a different way. Perhaps you can tell me, you understand that this is the way I'm doing it, but you prefer it when I do it that way. Because bottom line is everybody has a choice. We're all individual and divine creatures with a right to exist. Our rights to exist don't end when we come into a relationship, especially romantic relationships with other people. Your right to exist, man or woman, does not change. And suddenly you become the object of your mate or your partner. Okay? So, stonewalling, usually the person who doesn't talk as much, tends to just keep retreating. And before they can retreat physically, often they'll just do this, like, they'll just stop talking. Okay, and just keep looking and listening. But in your head, you've decided, this is too much for me. This is too much for me. I cannot take this anymore. Patsy says, listener says, I am done. Figure it out. So you can jump high, you can jump low, you can froth at the mouth, but I am not going to continue trying to explain myself, right? I'm not going to keep trying to do that defensive dance. I'm just going to stop talking. The problem is when you stonewall, that's also a problem because you have just hit a wall in the relationship. So the stonewaller is really not communicating effectively either. So there you have it, people, these 4, and they are beasts. Because as they keep escalating, very often these things escalate into higher and higher forms of emotional abuse. And then we leave the emotional abuse. Often we tie it in to the psychological abuse. And then we keep graduating. If these things are not checked, we graduate to physical abuse. Because there's a lot that happens between you meet someone on whatever, Tinder, or I don't know where people meet people, Match. You meet somebody on Match, or you meet somebody in the grocery store. There's a lot that happens between our bodies love each other. Yes, you're the best. I have found the absolute most gorgeous, wonderful person in the world. There's a lot that happens between that time and you've landed the person in the hospital because you slapped them, because in your mind, who are they to talk to you in a tone you did not think they needed to talk to you in? Forgetting that this person is an individual person. They have a right to talk to you however they want. You decide what to do with that, including terminate the relationship, including walk away, including call a therapist, including when things calm down, have a conversation about it and teach them how you prefer to be spoken to. So why do these patterns or ways of being show up? I think they actually show up to take care of us. The criticism, defensiveness, contempt, and the stonewalling, they show up to take care of us. We are born, we grow up in families, we see how people around us take care of themselves. As kids, we learn those little ways, and criticism might work for us because when we criticize people, we get what we want. We've seen it work with our parents or other people. We're like, that's the one for me. Very often, that criticism is so learned in the family. It's such a family-based pattern. It is such a family-learned pattern, this criticism. But again, this is how your person might have learned to take care of themselves. When they want something, when they have a need, perhaps they have learned to come down really hard on another person. And perhaps what they need to learn is a different way if they say they love you. And if a person loves you, again, they will listen when you say what feels better to you. Because love, if you love me, you're not going to want to keep doing something that feels painful to me. That is my firm stance. That is my firm stance. If you love me, and I tell you, when you talk to me like this, it causes so much pain to bubble up in my body. If you love me the way I have decided I need to be loved, you will make the adjustment that I offer when I say, I prefer it if you say to me like this. So, Petra says, it's like you are reading my mind. That's exactly how I react. I usually just zone out into my happy place and block the yapping. Shuts down. Now, the thing is, all of those responses are actually brain-based responses. What happens when we're under stress? The brain goes into fight. Again, some people won't take it. They'll come swinging. If you're going to criticize me, I'll tell you what you did wrong yesterday. So some of us come back swinging, except it's just like, but those people who don't like to do, they might just freeze, shut down, freeze, or you do the flight response where you escape. I'm leaving the house. Sometimes the escape is like Petra says, in your head, in your mind. I am going to my happy place where I just hear one, and you can be over there busting your vein. That one right there, and I'm on the beach somewhere in Bermuda in my mind. But like I was saying, those patterns, they show up to protect us. Because the brain, whenever it feels threatened, even if the threat is real or imagined, it responds in these ways. Okay? Like I was saying, criticism might be the way somebody learned to get their needs met. Again, defensiveness, where you just try to put the blame somewhere else, throw the blame back. Let me volley that ball back over the net to you. What do you mean? No, that wasn't what I was trying to do. And we are like kids trying to explain ourselves to another adult. When you find yourself in that state of vulnerability where you're like off your foundation, you're feeling destabilized emotionally, and you're trying to justify and explain, but, when you know the truth, you know exactly what you did, and that what you did might not have been out of order. When you find yourself, though, feeling this overwhelming need to pacify this other human being, you're going about it wrong. It's not going to be efficient, because I'm almost guaranteeing you this person is not going to listen anyway. They're going to read it as you just not taking responsibility for the mistake you made. Okay? So these kinds of patterns show up, I think, like big brothers. You know, a big brother doesn't care. If your big brother feels like you're in distress, it's just going to show up and somebody's going down today. So for you, criticism, again, might be the way you protect yourself. Stonewalling might be the way you protect yourself. Contempt might be the way you protect yourself, where you're like, I'm going to squash this. I'm going to squash this by making you feel so bad, you're going to stop it. Again, that's a mistake. That's a terrible mistake. But many of us have learned that way because we've seen it modeled to us in the community, in our homes, and sometimes in response to trauma, we've become very hypervigilant. Hypervigilant means you're always looking for something. Like you won't let a thing pass. You're so anxious. Your anxiety is so high that you've learned to come out swinging, to protect yourself, to defend yourself. So remember this, you know this, you've read this, I'm sure. When your body feels like it's under stress, and your body must feel under stress when somebody is saying something critical to you. The first thing that happens when somebody says, why did you? There's an alertness that happens in your body. Huh? Why did you? You're like, you're waiting for the rest. Why did I what? What did I do? What? The body's stress hormones get activated. Adrenaline starts rushing through you. Now you're perked up. I need to hear, what is it? What did I do that is wrong? Because anytime we think we've done something wrong, the brain is like, something bad is going to happen. And if your brain thinks something bad is going to happen, it must try to help you to survive. It must try to help you to survive. Okay? And again, everybody's stressor is different. Everybody's stressor is different. What ticks certain people off is different. You might have dated this person over here, and that was not an issue for them. You're not cooking. But this person over here learned somewhere that for you to be in love, you must get food. There's nothing wrong with that. That's just the message they learn. And so until the two of you negotiate how that's going to look, especially if you hate cooking, then you're going to have discomfort and anxiety. But that's where the communication takes place. That's where the talking takes place. That's where the give and take takes place. And that's where the learning to listen to your person, just listen, more with the feeling of love and acceptance rather than judgment. Some of us are listening to our mates to tell them why they're wrong or why they should not be feeling upset that we didn't cook what they liked. They have a right to be feeling upset that we cooked something they didn't like. They have every right to feel upset. What is not cool is them criticizing us for it. What is not cool is them calling us names for it. Okay? So instead, what we do is we sit, we have a conversation, we talk about it. Okay? What do you think you ought to do? Again, when these 4 horsemen show up, I am telling you now, these are the strongest predictors of divorce or separation or breakup. And if you think your mate has a problem with any of these, you need to watch yourself to see what is your problem, which one of those you're doing. Because again, you might not be the one that's doing the criticizing, but you might be the one stonewalling. Okay? If you're finding that, hey, you're feeling constantly alone in a relationship, more likely than not, one of these 4 has been showing up. One of these nasty beasts has been showing up. If you've been feeling alone in your relationship, if you've been feeling like you have to be walking on eggshells around your person, one of these 4 has been showing up. If you're feeling like you're having a hard time connecting with them, I feel so far away from you. I feel so distant. one of these four has been showing up. If sex is absent from your relationship, I have a feeling all of these four have been showing up for a while. Because again, it takes a while to go from fairy tale to there'll be no schnookums for you for a while. Okay? So, what do? You want to know what I did when those four horsemen started showing up in my in my relationship? I'll tell you next week. Tune in next Thursday, I'll tell you. I'll tell you what I did. Because again, as we've been learning, every relationship is going to go through stages. Okay? It's going to go through these 5 stages before it gets to maturity. And it's going to come to that point in the relationship where it feels like we're having a power struggle. Okay? It feels as if we cannot stop arguing or disagreeing. That's a power struggle phase. And that's often where people decide, am I staying in this? Are we going to work through it or not? I'm bolting. I cannot. I'm not doing it. It's too much for me. Okay? So next week, I'll let you know what I did. So I want you to tune in. Those people from Cottage, before I move on a little further, those people from Cottage, when you come upon this video and you get to this part where I'm asking this question, I want you to put your answer in the chat. I want you to type your answer in the chat. Okay? Now, okay, I'm going to give you a little bit of what I did when these patterns started showing up in my relationship. Sometimes I wish I didn't know these things because at least I'd have an excuse and I wouldn't have to do the work. I would just say, oh, forget about it. This is too hard. This is too much. I'm going and I'm never coming back. I'm taking my toys from the playground and I'm never coming back. I'm not playing anymore. But one of my favorite relationship teachers, her name is Dr. Pat Allen. She has a rule that she offers to help you decide, should I stay or should I go? Have we come to the point in the relationship where we can't do this anymore? I'm not doing this anymore. She says to ask yourself, is that relationship at least 51% valuable to you? Is that relationship at least still 51% valuable to you? And if it is, then do the work. Okay? If it is, then you do the work. Why? Because everybody's got something. Everybody's got something. And so if you bump out of the 5 stages of relationshiping, the next person you meet, yes, you're going to still have to go through this relationship cycle. Okay? And they're going to have different issues, different problems. You're all going to have different communication issues. Yes, it must show up. And one way or the other, you either work through it or you bump out of it. Some people do this kind of hybrid thing where they just stay together like roommates, they just but the relationship itself is essentially dead. So I'll tell you exactly what I did next week, but here's what you want to consider doing if any of these 4 have been showing up in your relationship. Number 1, if it's at the point where it's just too volatile, space. Take some space from each other. Go away for a holiday with your girlfriends. Go home, visit your family. You might even have to get a different apartment or house or whatever, take some space so you can have some time to really diffuse that kind of volatility. Because again, we're human beings. And when you've been ramping up from this criticism to now contempt, very often what follows is physical violence, real nasty stuff. And that is too far. I think when we've gotten to that point, it's so hard to come back to the essence of what you started off with. Okay? So space, so that you all have enough time to clear the air and renegotiate the relationship. Again, why is that important? For you, you might have decided that the relationship is at least 51% valuable to you. You might have kids, you might have property together, you might have investments tied up together. I am not one of those therapists that says, oh, if you're having difficulty, it's time to break up. Because more often than not, I'm expecting that there will be difficulty. It's a fantasy to think there's not going to be difficulty. It's actually a big lie. It's not true that there's not going to be difficulty. These patterns, they're going to pop up because we are human beings and we've seen these things. You have to be living under a rock not to have heard husbands and wives be critical of each other. You have to be, like where you were not in a cave. If you were somewhere isolated, you might not have seen people roll their eyes or snap their necks or puff and puff. That is very unrealistic. But when you see it start showing up, really, the thing to do is to nip it in the bud and address it before it escalates. Now, I know some people, even after you address it, they don't make the shift. If they don't make the shift and it's become too painful to be in the same space, then get into a different space. And then you still try to work through it if you want, if you think it's at least 51% valuable, but not just alone. At that point, I believe that your communication styles are a certain way that one is feeding on the other. Your style is feeding on that person's critical way. Your stonewalling is when people stonewall, the other person's reaction is often actually, instead of just stopping right away, is to become even more, because it feels like they can't reach you now. So they go even bigger before they just give up or before you walk away or go somewhere else. Therapy, in my view, is a must. I think if you're going to be in a romantic relationship, M-U-S-T, if that relationship is important to you, learn how to do it better. Learn how to do relationships better. We take classes to learn how to drive. We take classes to learn algebra, which nobody uses in life. Nobody. Except for those people who, I don't know. I don't know where they use algebra. I don't. Okay? I don't. So whomever, the people who prepare us in life, they do an incomplete job of prepping us for real life. So if you're going to be in a relationship, take it upon yourself to learn how to do it, and over time, how to keep doing it better. It is not automatic. It is not automatic. That's another lie. You're not just going to know how to do it just because, again, you have the fairy tale feelings of love on the front end. It is not automatic. And that's what people mean when they say it takes work. If that relationship is at least 51% valuable to you, do the work. Buy a book and sit and read it together. Because chemistry, your body liking schnookums with your person, that is just one piece of relationship. It's just one aspect. And that one aspect, like I said, is going to go to the dogs if you're coming at your person outside of schnookums time with criticism. I don't care how good your schnookums is. If you're coming at your person with criticism, you're not, you don't know, why are you? Schnookums is going to shrivel up and schnookums is going to dry up. Be realistic. The reason this is so important is because relationships are so important in our lives. To pretend otherwise is a little bit, to pretend as if, oh, I don't care. I don't care if the relationship works or not. Oh, I'm just tired of them. You know you're lying. You know you're hurting at night. What's the point of pretending otherwise? Like, who is that helping? It's not helping you. It's not helping you. And if you have property together, it's not helping that however $100,000, $100,000 you've put into that house and the time you've invested in your children together. So this is, it's not a movie. It's not a story. It's real life. It's real life. And if your real life matters to you, and if you're honest, you will admit that being in a happy relationship is a very fulfilling experience. So I am not down with the people who are like, because I don't believe it. I don't really believe it. There might be, everything, there's this bell curve, right? Normal distribution. Up there in the tail end, you might have about 5% of people who really don't care about relationships. And then there's another 5 who all they care about is relationships. But for the most part, most of us enjoy the satisfaction of being with another human being who just loves our ugly butt for who we are, who smiles with us, who you can lean back and lie on your bed with and talk about nothing or do nothing. All of us like that. But we also have to be realistic with navigating the parts that don't feel good, because clearly there are parts that don't feel good enough that at least 50% of us, when we do say, yeah, we down for life, we like, poof, nope, I am escaping, I am fighting, I am freezing, I am. So we have to learn to do this better. We have to learn to do it better. There's so much value in learning to do it better. Patterns are not going to change without intervention. Them being hypercritical of you is not just going to change just because you tell them to stop it. Not until they understand why they do it. It's not about you, It's really, there's nothing you could do that would prevent a critical person from criticizing you. Nothing, because when you get the washing of the dishes or the clothes correct, they will complain about something else, your hairstyle, why are you doing it like this? There's just some people that's what they've learned. So it's not that you have to make an adjustment just automatically. They have to understand why they are like that, why they act like that, because they're the only ones who can change it. You have to understand why, when you feel pressure coming at you, that you start stonewalling. Because stonewalling is not a good way to defend yourself or to communicate so that the energy in the relationship can flow. Because when you start stonewalling, you just put a barricade and nothing is coming through. Now, that is very powerful, and a lot of people, it can make the big mouthed one in the relationship go nuts. It's extremely powerful. I know it's powerful because that's my weakness. I know it's powerful because you can go to where they can talk until they're blue in the face. They can talk, they can criticize, until they're blue in the face. And they can't make you talk. Some people will beat their spouses because they want them to speak and answer. Answer me, answer me, answer me. You know? But we have to learn the unconscious patterns we are bringing to a relationship. What is it that I need to learn to do different so that we can keep talking? We might disagree. We might have to postpone. We might have to wait on things, but at least, and we're communicating. Okay, the vehicle of the relationship is moving. It's moving. Here's the other thing to consider, right? In the same vein, all of us are broken. All of us are broken. Everybody has got an issue. Nobody's perfect in the relationship. In fact, there's a little girl and a little boy, or a little girl and a little girl, not my business, boy and boy, that's in the relationship with you, the adult, that very often is looking for validation and support and just stroking, just reassurance and healing, and sometimes even reparenting. Okay? And if you are not willing to do all of these things for the other human being that you want to pull into a relationship with you, if you're not willing to do those things, leave the person's child alone. Because I don't care what you think, this is going to show up. So if you know you don't have the courage, or you don't have the energy, I don't have the patience to deal with somebody's broken pieces, leave them alone. Or just tell them, I'm only here for schnookums. Can you deal with that? If the person says yes, that's all they can deal with, that's all they want to, got a match made in heaven. But if you say, yeah, I'm in relationship, relationship. They are awesome when they're working well, but they're hell when they're not. And most of us want them. It's part of who we are as human beings to want to be coupled. Again, most of us. There's lots of value to being in a working relationship. 2 incomes. You can send the kids to better schools. You can save more money for your retirement. Don't be a jack. Don't be a fool. And don't lie about it. In your couplehood, you have more fun. Again, if it's working well, you got somebody to go everywhere with if you're enjoying that. You live longer and healthier because you got somebody making sure you did your pap smear or your colonoscopy. They're writing you to do it. So you're more likely to live longer. So there's a lot of value in being in a relationship, but in a working and healthy relationship. What I'm suggesting tonight is this. If you are wanting, if you're considering being in a relationship, please do not trust just your body. Because bodies change, So this fine thing you saw when she was 22, if you're going to stay together for a long time, she's going to change. Her body's going to change. And schnookums will change too. So if that's the only thing you're willing to trust, it's kind of I don't know that it's the safest way to go. Yeah, because her body's going to change, your body's going to change. You're not always going to be Mr. Muscular You know, bare bellies start to form, you know. If these four ways of communicating are in your relationship, criticism, if you always got to tell your person what to do, how to do it, why you think they made a mistake. I had a couple, and one partner said to the other, well, I just like to play devil's advocate with you. I just like to show you the other way you could look at it. Why? Why you want to be your mate's devil's? You want to be the devil's advocate? Why? What's the benefit in that for the relationship? Don't you think instead you should leave that for the devil to do? Why you want to be the devil's advocate with your spouse? Why do you want to put yourself in a place where you're always telling them what they did wrong and what they need to do better? Who likes that? And the defensiveness piece, where you're feeling and you're acting as if you have to explain yourself. You're an adult. Why do you have to explain why you made a certain choice? You know, especially if it's not something that is like an illegal choice, an immoral choice. It's not as if you went off and you spent money. You know, those are different things. You know, we can hurt each other by overspending and taking money when the other one doesn't know. That's financial abuse. That's different. But why did I cook, or why did I not cook this, or why did I set the table like this or not set it like this? Why did you buy a toy for your child you have with this other person? Why? You are this, you are that, the name calling. Oh, and the name calling starts somewhere and it starts graduating to you are a B, you are a P, you are a dog, you are a this and a that. How can you again expect a person who you hurt to their core to be vulnerable with you, to be open with you? Yeah, you start killing the relationship. And so, again, I suggest pay attention. Criticism, defensiveness, contempt, you're rolling your eyes, neck popping, oof. And stonewalling, you need a therapist, okay? Or you need some good books on relationships. If you haven't done that yet, please do it. Please do it. Okay? All right. Some of the topics I'm going to keep hitting are emotional abuse. What is that like? Because these things, they lead to emotional abuse. They're actually ways of being emotionally abusive to our mates. And that's the first rung on the ladder. Very often, like I said, a person doesn't just go from fairy tale to slapping you to where you have to wire your jaw shut. Do you know how many people this happens to? In the name of love? That's a lie. Okay? So I'm going to keep talking about these issues and asking you to look out for it and to understand that you don't have to completely give up on relationships. If you can learn how to communicate, if you can learn how to talk, if you learn what to do before you put yourself in the situation, right? Before you say yes to a person, I think some of these things are things that we need to be talking about. So Simone says, what are some good relationship books? Simone, Getting the Love You Want by Harville Hendricks is a very, very, very powerful one. And I'm going to suggest only this one. Why? Because this one has actual activities you and your mate can do together, like real stuff where together you learn each other, because you go back to your childhood together and you learn each other's styles. Well, which one of us, has, I'm the bigger talker and I'm the one that's more likely to stonewall because of this. Yeah. And you do that together. What does that do? That helps you learn your mate. and you build a certain level of intimacy with another human being, which was the point of the relationship anyway, wasn't it? It could not have been just for schnookums. I mean, schnookums, you can pay for that. You can pay for schnookums, right? Men and women can pay for schnookums. You don't need to marry a whole human being for schnookums. Please don't get lulled into that. Okay? But when we make these agreements with each other, we're going to live together in bliss and peace. We're going to have children. We're going to raise them. We're going to build things together. This is so crucial. And many of us, yes, we do the pre-marriage counseling, but we do it with pastors, which is great. But that's pastoral counseling very often, which is not teaching you, hey, your unconscious pattern from your childhood is going to show up in your relationship. And this is what it might look like. And this is what you want to do when that happens. It's going to happen because every relationship is going to go through the stages. I remember growing up where at a certain point, those two people who used to be under the moonlight in the village, you would hear the other villagers, the medveillers. The medveillers are the gossip professionals in the village, right? They would start saying, oh, so-and-so having problems. I'm from Dominica, so we mix our English with French, right? We is yes. So they'd say, oh, so-and-so having problems. But you could almost expect there would be that stage where the two people would be having problems. Like it was almost guaranteed. And in a small village, you kind of, when I'm looking back, I remember these things. And so it's kind of like being in a fishbowl. So it's like you see this stuff happening live. But, the ones who were able to navigate and talk about it, talk through it with like wise people, older people who had been through those stages in the relationship, could tell them, garçon is boy, chill out, just be patient. Just talk to each other. Yeah, you need more patience. Just calm down. Talk to her in a certain way. Tell the girl the same thing. Somebody's telling the woman the same thing. Yeah. But again, to expect that there are going to be no problems in the relationship is a lie. It's a lie. If you're going to make it official, not just getting married, because if you're going to be in a committed relationship with a person, please read some relationship books together. The physical will wane. It'll change. But it's that other stuff. That's where the real knowing another soul is. That's where the real knowing your person's weakness and where I can support them, where they really get to know me beyond the bravado, beyond my criticism. You start understanding where your person picked up these nasty habits and how you now can support them by the way you're communicating with them to decrease the likelihood of their criticism, to also neutralize the criticism, to learn how to not take things so personally, to learn to wait a little while, give things time to cook a little bit, to learn how to manage your own anxiety when you're ready to escape or when you feel like you're being over defensive. Okay? That is so crucial. And again, why is it crucial? It's crucial because you're going to do schnookums and bring new life. And you bring new life into these systems where you haven't done the work to prepare for schnookums. Next thing, babies and human beings spending the rest of their life in pain, themselves struggling with relationships because we, the original couple, we didn't do that work. Okay? We have to be open and real, Joy. Yes, we do. Because open and real, the most beautiful thing is when you actually start going through a book like Getting the Love You Want with your mate, the level of knowing of that person, and again, their weaker points, their vulnerabilities. We think when we share vulnerabilities that makes us look weak. I promise you the opposite happens. Why? Because you start seeing the little boy, you start seeing the little girl, you start seeing the other person's humanity. And if you're willing, again, both to do the work, you will apologize for the mistakes of the criticism that you'd been dishing out. And you will practice, you will change your ways. Sorry is not enough. Really, you show you're sorry when you change your ways. Okay? Sorry is not enough. Demonstrate you're sorry with your action. Terminate the name calling. If you are aware you are calling your partner names, that is not a loving thing to do. And you're slowly destroying your person. And they might not leave you today, but they will not take it forever. I don't believe many souls anymore, as our grandparents used to. I don't believe many souls anymore tolerate that kind of pain. Okay? So, Getting the Love You Want is the book I'm recommending tonight because before you even go to a therapist, you all make a commitment and you work through that book together. And I suggest you do it in the beginning when all of your fairy tale hormones and you're excited about spending time with the person and learning them. I suggest doing it in that phase because like they say, you're like a boom boom fly in the early phases of the relationship. Wherever they are, you want to be. So be with the book. That's going to set you all up on a good foundation. Like I was saying, I get that pastors and priests do premarital counseling, but it's really not that kind of counseling. It's not that kind of work that helps you dig up and pull out and identify where we are likely to face troubles. Okay? So, Petra, you are welcome, Petra. Simone, no problem. Good night, Franklin. Good night, sis. Hi, Joy. You're late tonight. Better late than never, ma. So this is for the people from Cottage to Curry. You all remember we've been talking about a reunion? Before COVID hit, we were sure we were going to be in Cottage. Was that 2020? We were planning it, I think, for the summer of 2020, and then COVID hit and we couldn't do it. A couple people have a brilliant idea. And I want you to type in the chat when you come upon this, write yes or no. And the question is, what do you think about having a Cottage reunion in New York? Huh? Can't you see it? Half of Cottage is in New York already. The rest is in Florida, Atlanta, Toronto. Yeah. It's a hop and a skip and a jump away. A hop and a skip and a jump away. So type yes or no in the chat. Type yes. Irene says, what about those who want a book to teach them how to stay away from relationship? Irene, you have every right to stay away from relationships. I get it. I don't know that I have a recommendation for you yet, but I can do the research. I could do a hypnotherapy session to help you clarify whether or not you are your deepest self, your truest self, is really not wanting to be in a relationship and is content in creating a life alone. There's nothing wrong with a single life. There's actually beauty in just being your fully actualized self where, hey, I don't, I'm okay, I'm fine, I don't want that experience. I don't want that experience anymore. But for me, I would say it's problematic if I don't want that experience anymore based on traumatic events that I haven't resolved yet. I would say put the time into resolving the traumatic history and make a clearer decision then after you have resolved that. Because for the most part, many of us, even when we say we don't want to be in relationship, we really have a secret wish to be in a functioning relationship that feels good. That feels good. That's the caveat. It's got to feel good. If it's not going to feel good, keep it in the store. I know for sure I don't want it. Keep it in the store. Petra says, I do believe if spiritual counselors speak the way you spoke tonight about relationships, boy, many marriages would still be functional. I think the issue is that many of our people in particular, many spiritual and religious people mix up counsel we get from our leaders or pastoral leaders with therapy, like therapeutic advice. It's different. It's not the same, except if your pastoral person has a license in counseling or psychology, then you are taking your broken car to the wrong, like to a lawyer. Would you take a broken car to an attorney? Although an attorney is very smart, I'm not going to take my broken car there. I'm not. I'm going to find a mechanic to deal with it. So, look, you can just go with talking to your priest or your pastor if you want and think, well, the Lord will help me. I just have to pray 10 Hail Marys and he'll stop criticizing me and he'll feel better. Again, more fairy tales. It's foolishness that they have. It's foolishness. It is not smart. Okay? It's not smart. So if you know, hey, I'm going to invest my emotions, my time, my money. I'm going to go so far as to buy a house with a person, a business transaction. I'm going to do perhaps the most important thing in my life and have babies with this person. Do you not think that's worth more than a driver's license? A driver's license, they give you a man. You got to read the manual, you got to study, and you have to even pass a test. Nobody's going to give you their driver's license if you don't pass their test. You can read the book all you want. It's just so consequential. Relationships are just so consequential. When I say that, I mean, even if you don't get married, who you are can make you or break you. If you're with a person who is hypercritical, they start breaking down your self-esteem. And by the time you eventually even pick yourself up the floor to leave them, you might be leaving with a broken jaw. You might be leaving with broken ribs, because that kind of behavior doesn't get better without intervention. Because if a person doesn't think they're wrong and that there's a different and more efficient way to communicate their displeasure or dissatisfaction, instead of destroying the person who 6 months ago they said was the love of their life. I don't think I have to say much more on that. I'm going to again reiterate that a book you can start with if you are dating right now, and this person is saying, yes, it's you. You see this girl and you're like, girl, you're the one I want. Fellas, masculine energy people, make the choice and step up and do the leadership thing and say to this girl you've identified and chosen, I want us to be well prepared for this life we're going to build together. And we're not going to take any chances if we can. We know that not everything, we can't prepare for everything. But what we can prepare for, this is how I want my family to be. This is what I want. I want a happy home. I want a peaceful home. I want a successful home. And so this book, I heard this psychologist talk about this book. Click, 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 Amazon. Click, 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 Amazon. In 5 days, it's in your mailbox. Go sit at the park and read it together. Lie down on your bed after work. You're killing time. Go through those activities. See how you get to learn this other person. See how much closer you'll get and feel with each other on a different level even than schnookums. Schnookums is great, but that learning of another person is going to magnify your schnookums time. You think you're having a good time right now? Do this work and you'll see. Okay? Do this work. Perhaps I should have led with that for the fellas. Perhaps I should have led with that. Seriously though, because if you learn how to communicate with your girl, there's not going to be much stonewalling happening. There's not going to be much freezing to where she's like, don't touch me. She's going to want to touch you. She's going to be begging to touch you if you've learned how to communicate. You're going to be beating her off with a stick. No stick, no stick, no stick, no beating off. But seriously though, okay? Okay, Irene says yes to the reunion in New York for Cottage. Y'all, seriously, yes. Petra says that's true. Finding the right person for the job will make a great difference. Absolutely. I love priests and I love pastors, but except if they've gotten the training in marriage and family counseling, and they actually, why is there a discipline of marriage and family counseling? Why do people spend the years and the time learning it if it was something you could do by becoming a mechanic? You know, it's every discipline has its time, it has its work. It's different information, okay? And this is vital. This is how you are creating wealth for your family. This is how you make sure your grandkids know who you are. If you're taking time on the front end to create a proper relationship. If you don't, you're risking your future and your grandkids' future. The great-grandkids might think of you as a whomever based on the kind of relationship you have. So why not invest the time, you know, to get it right or to get it better? There's no right, but at least get it better. Hi, hi, Barrymore. How are you? How are you? Yes. So again, I'm going to say, in my view, I would be lying if I said, oof, relationships are a pain in the hoo-ha. I mean, they are work. They are work, but we can't be unbalanced. We cannot be unbalanced. They take effort. They take effort to get them back. Because again, you will go through the phases and the stages, and there is the stage where it really hurts, where you're trying to navigate, okay? But if during that phase you've realized this person's being critical and they're not stopping when I tell them to do it in a different way. I know I'm defensive, I'm walking on eggshells. No, they're even calling me names. Listen, that's where you draw the line. I'm telling you, the first time they start calling you names, check them. Check, I don't care, woman or man, check them right away. Give them a few more chances. Because some people need to hear the same thing a few times. And again, some people, they'll come back at you and say, well, that's how we did it in my family. That's how we do it on that side of town, whatever. I appreciate that's how you do it over there, but that doesn't feel good for me. If this person loves you, they will do the work. If they don't love you and they have a different idea, as in they might want to control you or you're there for some other needs, you're not worth the effort of them learning this new skill of communicating, then they won't do it. And that is your sign, if you ask me, that this is not your fit. So you got to make a decision if you're going to stay just to stay or if you're going to go find your fit. Because isn't that what you're really trying to do? Find the person you can kind of chill with till old age. Okay? So, cottage people, Jean Cortège, type in the chat, si vous fait une réunion à New York. And Jacqueline and Margaret are the ones with the boss idea. Margaret, I think you might have come up with it. I think it's an amazing, wonderful idea, especially after I saw how many cottage people were in New York for Mo. So, all right. So I'm talking about, I know you might not understand what I'm saying, but this last part was for people from my hometown. I just want to, again, encourage you to create the life you want. Create the life you want. Relationships, yes, they do take effort. It's not just fairy tales. It's not just we fall in love and we automatically go to the end. We have to deal with what comes up. And often what comes up are big relationship and communication struggles. But there are ways to fix that and to do it better. And the book I recommended tonight is Getting the Love You Want by Harville Hendricks. Okay? And his wife's name is Helen Hunt. Okay? Harville Hendricks and Helen Hunt. So, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your night. I will see you next week, Lord willing. If you follow me this weekend when I get to Fort Lauderdale, I will be sharing some of my experience down there. I'm going to learn sound healing in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. So, à la prochaine. Nous que voir. Dédé, good night.